Hey, this is Mike from Notion Forms. In this video, I'm going to walk you through all of the steps to set up your very first Notion form. That will include registering for Notion Forms, setting up the database in Notion, setting up the form fields, and other small features like email notifications. So, to start off, we're going to need to register for Notion Forms. So, if you come to the page here, you'll see register. Very simple. You can just put in your name. So in my name, email, password, and now you need to connect your Notion account to Notion Forms. So we're going to click Login with Notion here. And if you're logged into Notion on your web browser, it's actually going to recognize that right away. So this already knows that I'm in my Notion account. And what I'm going to do is click Select Pages. For now, I'm going to just use the Notion Forms test page. So generally speaking, you could just check off the entire workspace, but I'm going to just use this page for now. Allow access. Okay, so now you can see this message pops up here. We did not find any database. Please try again and contact us if the issue persists. So that's because, as you can see here in the One Notion Forms page, there are no databases. So what I'm going to do is type /table, and I'm going to add an inline table. And this is going to be called contact form, okay? And now we have the database that is going to populate with information as people fill out the form. Now, one thing you want to make sure of is that all of the property headings of this database, these need to match what you want the form fields to be. So in this case, we're going to make a sample contact form. And to show you what that'll look like, actually, we can go right to the Notion Forms homepage. And at the bottom of the page, you see this beautiful Notion Forms contact. This is actually a Notion form itself. So this gives you a good idea of what it will look like if you want to include something like this on your website. And we're basically going to be rebuilding this form here. So in this form, we have the properties name, email, and message. So if we're going to rebuild that form, we're going to need those same properties. So we already have name, and then we want to make this field email, and we'll change this to an email property. And then we'll make one more field called message, and we'll keep this as text. And we'll probably make this one a bit larger in the database, since it's likely to contain more information than these two. So now we have the database set up, and if we go back to Notion Forms, we should be able to scan again, and now it recognizes that we do have a database there because I just built it. So I'm going to click here to create a new form, and you can see it recognizes my workspace here. So it's the only one connected, Mike's Notion. Database, contact form. So because I only gave Notion Forms access to one small page of my workspace, it recognizes that there is only one database here. So you can see that if you don't want Notion Forms to have access to certain parts of Notion, it won't be able to recognize any of the databases here. So I'm going to select the database I just made, which I called contact form, and then click continue. So now this is the place where we actually set up the form. The title of the form is by default the title of the database, and I'm going to leave that as is, contact form. Description. So if we go back to the home page here, this is where the description will pop up as an example. So for this, we'll just say, this is a sample contact form. And that's it. So you see where the description sort of pops up over here. Now we need to edit the fields. And there are a few ways you can do this. So you can see the order here is a little bit backwards from the way I want it. I want name at the top, so I'm just going to drag that up. I want email next, so I'm going to drag that up, and then messages here at the bottom. Now what we can do is edit some of the properties of these fields. For example, we want to make all of these fields required, because when someone fills out a contact form, if you're missing their name, it's not very useful. If you're missing their email, it's not very useful. You won't be able to respond to them. And of course, the message, the reason they're contacting you in the first place. So we're actually going to make all of these required. And you can see when you make it required, you get this little asterisk that pops up. And for the message field, we're actually going to do multi-lines input. Now, what this does, as you can see, is it makes this field a little bigger, and it gives you the option to even expand this. So if people are typing out long messages, they're not going to have to scroll up and down and have all this text hidden. They'll be able to see the full message here, and it just looks a little more aesthetically pleasing, I think. It looks more like a real contact form should. So now we have these fields customized. That's great. And we have a few little options here. Receive email notifications on submission. You can customize the color, and you can change, let me just move this out of the way here. We can change the text of the submit button, which is down here. So, for example, we could change this to submit form, and you can see the text changes. I'm going to leave this as submit. And we're going to check off receive email notifications on submission. So this means that anytime somebody submits a form, you will receive an email notification, and you'll be able to see in just a minute what that looks like. Okay, so now this is all sorted out. The form looks good. I'm ready to launch this. So I'm going to click Create Form. Okay, so now the form is created. It's saved in your Notion Forms account, and it's very easy. If you want to share this or embed, you can just click this little icon here, copy it to your clipboard. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to put this on a Notion page. So you could include this on a public-facing Notion page, and then people would be able to go to that page to submit the form. You can embed this HTML on a website, really anywhere you want. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in Notion. So we're going to type /embed, and you just click this block, and all we need to do is paste what we just copied from Notion Forms, embed link, and you see the contact form very nicely just pops up right here on the Notion page. Now, in practice, you probably wouldn't have the contact form on the same page as the database, because then when people go to this form, they'd be able to see everyone else's submissions, which we don't want. But for the sake of this example, we're going to leave these on the same page just so you can see what it looks like. So you can see it sort of pops up in the center here, and this is sort of a Notion formatting thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 columns, and I'm going to bring the contact form into the left-hand column. So now it's sort of hugging the left-hand side of the page, which I think looks a little bit better for this case. You can see we have some scrolling to do here. So just like with anything else in Notion, you can really just expand this and make sure it looks good. So now we have the full form showing here, no scrolling required. And the form is ready to go. So now when someone comes here and submits their information, that information will pop up down here. So I'm going to do a quick test run of this. So we'll say, name here, Mike Dodge, email, and the message. And we're going to say, I am testing out this Notion form. Okay, so we filled out all of the fields, name, email, message, and I'm going to click Submit. And when someone submits the form, they get this nice message here indicating that the form was in fact submitted. We can come down here and you see my name, email, and message populate in this database. We had a few blank rows to begin with when you create a new database. And then, as you can see here, my email, I got a notification pop up from Notion Forms, new form submission for contact form. So I received this email notification instantaneously saying that there was a new submission, and you can follow this link right here and just open up the page directly in Notion, come down, see who submitted the form, and then from there you can do what you need to do, maybe send a follow-up to them, respond to their message, whatever you need to do. So this is a very simple example, but as you can imagine, you can get pretty complex with this because Notion databases are very, very powerful. And so once you capture certain types of contact form fields, you can really do anything you want with that data within Notion. So I hope this was a useful tutorial, and I hope you are able to get started with your very first Notion form. So stay tuned for more videos, and good luck.